I eventually had my son when I was at 23. And once I had my son, it kind of opened up my eyes to that there's such a bigger things out there than myself.
One day, my husband looks at me and he said, "I want to read the Bible." I was like, "Okay, well, we'll get you a Bible." I didn't have anything against it at that point. I just didn't want anything to do with it myself. So I went to Barnes & Noble and I got him a Bible, and I had no idea what I was doing, no idea what I was looking for. I'm like, well, this one looks okay, and Google says to get a KJV, so that's what we got. And I brought it home and he started reading.
When I was about 15, 16, and I was going through my hard times, like I was saying, God was kind of just always there with me. I had actually came to Bridgepoint. At the time, I thought it was just something to get me out of the house because, I was grounded. I was in drug court. But I remember one time during the youth group, I was reading Revelations, and something that the pastor had said spoke out to me because he was reading some other passage, and I can't remember what it was right now, but he had said that no matter what you have done, that any soul can be saved. And what I was reading, that was the one sentence that he said that stuck out to me during the whole message, and it really spoke to me because I had done a lot of bad things.
And I went to bed that night, and he stayed up till, I want to say it was like 4 a.m., just reading the entire night. And I woke up to him coming into our room and bawling his eyes out. And I was panicking, thinking was something wrong. But he had encountered the Lord, and he had repented and gave his life to the Lord. And he was apologizing to me for everything that we had gone through and everything that we were doing.
Some people think, God and Jesus kind of like nudge you in a path and you kind of make your own choices. I always kind of think that he knew I was stubborn, and he had run out of patience with me because he has a bigger plan for me and for all of us. And so he, instead of gently guiding me, he just kind of pushed me straight into it. And it was like, you need to start, you need to come looking for me. You need to find out who you are.
The next few nights was the same type of situation where he was up all night reading and wouldn't come to bed till 4 or 5 in the morning. And that Saturday, we went to go over to his friend's house, his high school friend. They were doing a Bible study, and there were 3 couches in the living room. Each of us were on our own. And I remember just sitting as far back into the wall as possible. I had headphones in. I was like, I want nothing to do with this. I don't want to hear anything they're talking about. I was upset. And it was because I was still surrounded by the demonic, and they absolutely don't want you to hear the word. And so I was tuning out as much as I can. I was like, I am literally only here because I love you. That is it. I would not be here otherwise.
And so I started looking into different churches. I looked into different religions. I had gone to a synagogue. I had been to the Muslim temple, started talking with different peoples and different faiths, but none of them really felt right. And as I was looking for, different churches, I had remembered that I had come to Bridgepoint and how much that impacted me with that pastor when I had come here when I was younger. So I decided to come back here and give it a new shot. And I came here, and the atmosphere felt a lot better. I felt like a weight had come off my shoulders. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is the place where I can at least get started on my journey and finding Christ.
And the next morning, we were planning on going and seeing my grandmother, my dad's mom, who had Alzheimer's. And she had been put in a facility about 5 years before this, and her husband pulled her out of the facility and didn't let any of us see her for 2 to 3 years. So she was just put back in a facility because it got bad enough that he finally admitted he couldn't take care of her. And I wanted to go see her, and I wanted him to meet her before she was fully gone. And his friend had asked what we were doing the next day, and I told him that we were going to go see my grandma, but not really have too high of hopes because it had been 5 years since the disease had started. And I remember he looked at me and he said, "Hey, you never know. God works miracles. She might remember you." And I'm pretty sure I just told him, like, "Yeah, okay, sure, thanks." In my mind, I was like, this is total ridiculousness. Like, that's not going to happen. It's not possible. So we left, and he stayed up all night again reading. I didn't want to drag him up and out of bed with only an hour or two of sleep, so I decided to go by myself. So I got up, I got ready, and I headed out there, and I was fully mentally prepared to have just show up and just be like, oh, hi, I know you don't remember me, but I'm your granddaughter. And basically leave it at that. And it was more going to be for closure for myself than for anything else.
Next thing I knew, I had met a friend here that actually I knew when I was younger and doing drugs also. And he was a bountiful in his joy and happiness and how clean his spirit had become. And it really, it had inspired me to, go further into my path. And, at first, when you come here and you're finding Christ in general, it's a hard journey at first, because you're not only changing, your routines and your paths, but you're changing who you are.
And I show up and I walk in and I see her sitting at one of the tables, and she's definitely more frail than I remembered. It looked a little different than I remembered, but it's still obviously her. And I go in and I go over to her and it's like, hi, Grandma. It's like, do you remember me? And she looked at me with complete and total clarity and recognition in her eyes. And she's like, of course I do, sweetheart. And I started bawling. I was absolutely sobbing. I'm sure I was probably panicking everyone else around. And I was able to sit with her for a few hours. And she remembered our family. She remembered my childhood. She remembered the park that we would always go to. And I was showing her all these different pictures. And she fully remembered everyone. The conversation went in loops a few times, but that was the only sign that she had any sort of disease, any sort of Alzheimer's, dementia.
And the first thing that really filled my spirit as I started coming to church and finding Christ was it was the music. And it felt like every time there was a song, we did the songs. It felt like a chisel chipping away at the stone in my heart.
And I was on my way home, and what his friend had said kept just playing back in my mind, just over and over again. God works miracles. She might remember you. If anything, he can make her remember you. But in addition to hearing this thought play over and over again of what he said, I also started thinking, I was like, well, he could be a Christian. It's okay. I could keep doing the witchcraft. I could keep doing what I'm doing. And I started crying even harder because I knew internally, I was like, that it wasn't going to work if that was the case. If this is the path he was going down, I could not stay where I was at and us be together. And it broke my heart because I loved him so much. And I couldn't bear the thought of it. And I was like, I don't know what to do.